Greetings, adventures and foodies, we're back on Project Ascension. Today I'll share a very special build with you all. It's the very first I ever played on Project Ascension 4 years ago. With Season 9, we're gonna try to evolve that gameplay up to the next level. The theme that's dear and near to me? Well, the rogue that ditched the art of stealth to cast shadow bolts left and right. Forget simple stealth attacks, we're adding a whole new layer of dread to this mix. And here's how it went. Okay, as you can see, the DPS is bad and absolutely horrific. Even though I evolved the build from its original form, which was a Sinister Strike, Wind Fury, Burst of Ancient Shadow Bolts in there, and I actually spent nearly 350,000 mark on this garbage you're seeing right here. What? Just couldn't do the trick. That's why I'm saving you guys from this terrible build and not sharing you how I built it, and going to show you what I would actually do on Season 9 if I were to make a Shadow Rogue that kind of resembled what I did back then. But it actually works. This can definitely prepare you for Chapter 2, and this just goes to show how important it is to pick a great base, because the next build you're gonna see, we're only spending 70,000 marks on it. So hang tight, we got a lot to cover, no time to waste. I will unveil the abilities, talent, mystic enchants and gear section you need in order to conquer Chapter 2 that's just around the corner. And since it's been a little while, of course, we're gonna have a little contest this video. Stay tuned later in the video to see how to participate, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, of course. Join the Discord and let's dive into it. And as always, we're taking a look at the easy to follow graphic for the build, which you can find as a standalone picture in my Discord actually, so just to check it out. For the level 1 abilities, we're gonna pick up Sinister Strike, Arcane Intellect, Shadow Bolt and Charge. At level 10 or before level 10, we're only using Sinister Strike until we reach level 10, because that's when we're gonna pick up Eclipse Strike together with Band of Knives, Spell Infused Weapon and Solar Strike for this build. Then of course for the talented cards, we're gonna go with Double Down, Master of Shadow, Mental Quickness, Dark Intent, Sinister Flurry. If you have it, I would say go with Shadow Strikes. That's my take on it. If you don't go with Shadow Strike, you don't need Shadow Bolt, but it's the kind of way I would suggest that you go. But another thing to go instead of Shadow Strikes would be Honor Among Thieves or Vitality. And if you do not choose Shadow Strikes, do not choose Shadow Bolt in the beginning, then I'd much rather suggest that you pick up something like Slice and Dice for that extra attack speed instead. So that's it for the level 1 abilities, the carded abilities and the talented cards. Of course, this is a base that you can go from. I would strongly suggest you follow the suggestions I do and then go from there on. And of course you can opt in as a Sinister Strike build focus, which I'm running here. There is another variant that I'm gonna share with you guys more in this way of speech. It's a Gloomblade version, this build. If you're running a Gloomblade, there's a few talents that really make Gloomblades shine. And I would strongly suggest not to go with Double Down or Sinister Flurry, because those two abilities only affect Sinister Strike, meaning that Gloomblade is definitely out the way. The thing with Gloomblade is you also have to think you have to use daggers if you're using Gloomblade. Sinister Strike, you can also use a one-handed weapon like a sword or anything like it, but for Gloomblade you need daggers. But if you get great daggers and everything, often I've seen Gloomblade outperform the Sinister Strike version just by a tiny margin from what I've seen in the end. So those are my suggestions here. Sinister Strike, it's much easier to get into, but Gloomblade is the high rolling version of it, and you need to change up a few things, so we're not going over one but this. So that was it for the level 1 abilities, carded abilities and talent card. And for a quick note, during my recording of all of this video, Ascension team actually released a little change for the upcoming Chapter 2, and they made some spoilers, let's say it like that. And the spoilers themselves were actually that at the chapter 2 beginning, you actually have the possibility of carding 2 extra talents and 2 extra abilities, which is gonna be absolutely insane. Damn! So I would assume you also have the 2 extra starting abilities, actually, meaning that we get near 4 extra abilities and 2 talents in total, so 6 more slotted cards. So yeah, I think we're gonna be able to make some really fun builds, and I already have like 2 to 3 in mind that we're definitely gonna go cover. So make sure to check those out whenever they launch. Now, moving on to the oh so well known wish list, so to say, and then we're gonna move on to the gear section afterwards, together with the Mystic Enchant. We are, as per usual, only going to cover the epic and the legendary section. For the epic section, for the abilities, you want to look out for Shadow Form if you do not get Twisted Mind legendary. Then you want the Adrenaline Rush, then you want movement skills and anything that can just help you get over or interrupt any spell casting. For the legendary, you want things like Twisted Mind, because it's just so much spell power. When you're running with Mental Quickness, it's just the best in slot in my opinion. Then look out for Seed of Corruption. It's going to be humongous AoE, and it works together with your Shadow Strikes. Arcane Power for that, more spell power, and then Shadow Fury, I put a little 1 sign, as it does go hand in hand together with your Shadow and Shadow Crash. So all the talents, of course, let's go to Pure Shadow and Shadow Crash. These are so great in synergizing. If you can hit those 2, it's gonna be hard, but if you do hit them, keep them. Because whenever you fire enough Shadow Bolts, you're going to accumulate your Shadow stacks. When you have 10, you can use Shadow Crash by using Shadow Fury, and you will dish out a humongous amount of AoE and even single target damage. Shadow Flames for that extra Shadow Bolt damage. Sinister Strike improved for less energy consumption and more damage. Omen of Clarity and Vigor, just to keep that energy topped off. When you have things like Fan of Knives, it's so nice to have Vigor, which just gives you more energy basically, and it's really consuming a ton, so it helps really well. Attack power and haste is also something to look out for. Talent that give that in general, armor to the teeth, etc. Then moving on to the legendary section, Night's False Promise is so great together with Dark Intent. 4 damage basically free. Then you have Aggression for the crit for both your Viz Raid and your Sinister Strike, which in our case is transformed into Eclipse Strike and into Solar Strike. Then improve Shadow Bolt for the extra damage on Shadow Bolt, as we're spamming it like a ton. And also, of course, hit chance and hit abilities, Malphasat's Malediction, etc. Crit talents, especially one of those that increase your spell critical chance, sorry, not spell critical chance, but spell critical damage up to 200%. Then you want generic percentage, flat damage, and spell power, of course. Especially if you get like Demonic Knowledge, that's gonna be huge multiplier also for you. So yeah, those are the kind of talents and abilities you have to keep an eye out for while leveling and while rolling. For the gearing itself, I really suggest that you go for a strength-based gear. And when I'm saying strength-based gear, it is for the Judgment gear, 100%. The Judgment gear is going to be so well rounded for you, and especially if you get something like Armor to the Teeth, you're also getting extra bonus from all the extra armor. But in general, the stat weighting on them is just so well balanced for you, especially when you're going into a hybrid. And if you're going strength, of course, you can also go for a Aki spell power hybrid, but my suggestion is go for strength purely because of the Judgment. If you get high mythic gear, well, I do believe you could actually go for the Aki, but most of you will probably not be there. Most of you will probably be able to get the Judgment gear alone. Before we move any further, of course, I also mentioned a competition earlier in the video. To participate in this one, all you have to do is put your name in the comment section so I can actually pick out a winner. It's of course going to be your in-game name, so if it was me, it will be Nithistrasil right here. But all you have to do is put your in-game name in the comments down below, and you will have a chance to actually win this aura of experience. This is the prize this time around, but I'm giving a little back to you. With chapter 2 just around the corner, you definitely want to grab one of these so you can prestige your preferred build right up to it, or right after the launch, probably. So, put your comments down below and have a chance. I'm going to draw the live winner in about a week's time, probably, on a live stream, of course. So make sure also to tune in whenever we're going to have a look at that. Now, moving on to the Mystic Enchantments. The Mystic Enchantment this time around is going to be 3 improved Sinister Strike, 3 Fighters Sinister Strike, 2 Necrotic, 3 Stab in the Dark. Then I'm going for 3 Vitality, 1 Precision, 1 Balance of Power, and of course a Vigor. The reason for the Vigor here is also to boost our maximum energy. As mentioned earlier, Vigor is very good talent also to grab, because with stacking energy cost of Fan of Knives and the high amount for means that I can basically just come to and almost have for third instantly, meaning that you can dish out more AoE in a burst where it's needed. So definitely want to grab Vigor. Of course, if you are going for things like Gloomblade, of course you want to replace any of these Sinister Strikes with the Gloomblade, not Bloom, Bloomblade. Enchantments instead. So that's it for the Mystic Enchantments. Now, let's go test this build out, shall we? And by the power of editing, we're now at the target dummy. Here the Orgrimmar entrance, and as you can see here in the background, I've just placed down the totem to the right. As you can see, I'm running my simple judgment gear without any heroic gear on, Cloth Magus, Viscark Bloodletter, anything that you can find in the ashes from daily quests. You can get this gear too, no problem at all. I've buffed up myself with my Fel infused weapon and everything, and as mentioned in the start of the video, this is what like 70,000 marks can get you, together with my approximately 70 or 80 level in prestiging. So if you have 0 prestige levels, this is probably more like 150,000, something like that. So without further ado, we're going to start off with the AoE dummies, as you can see, where I'll be spamming my Fan of Knives together with my Shadow Strikes, which I brought. I didn't really get any cooldowns, so this is pretty much the base. The build itself here, as you can see, is just going in and spamming Fan of Knives, and you can see it hitting a ton. We're easily being above 10k, which is already so much better than the other build I showed in the start. This just gets to show how big of a difference the talents that you pick in the start, in the beginning at leveling, means in the end. Because even with 350,000 invested, I couldn't hit this number. Normally I let it hit 8 stacks for the Fan of Knives, and then I let it drop off. So yeah, as you can see, a bit over 10k stable, first around 15k, but stable above. So moving on to the single target, we're gonna have a look at what it can do for single target DPS. And of course, for this build, as you can see here, I start spamming my Eclipse, and as you could see, I'm hovering over the Gloomblade. I did pick it up, I did keep a few talents for it, but in the end, since the strike, Eclipse Strike was just better for me with my gear, and given I didn't have the perfect Gloomblade setup for daggers or anything. And as you can see, Fel infused weapon, Sinister Intent, and the double down together with melee hitting and Eclipse Strike is just the top damage done. Of course, with better gear and everything, that only goes up. For this build, you might be thinking, hold on, wait a minute, where's his Shadow Bolts? I actually tried not to go with Shadow Strikes for this setup, just for pure experiment while I had it on stream here, but remember to follow the suggestions I did. This is what looks without the Shadow Bolts, and you can expect at least a 20 to 30% increase. And if you get the Seed of Corruption, of course the AoE is also humongous. So, without further ado, thank you all for tuning in and see you next time.